Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us from all corners of the globe. My name is Joy, and on behalf of 84,000 Translating the Words of the Buddha and Siddhartha's Intent, I will be your MC for today. Before we begin, please note that we are providing simultaneous interpretation into a number of languages here on Zoom. To activate the interpretations, please click on the globe icon labeled Language Interpretation and select the language of your choice. Bella?
大家好，稍后我们会开放翻译室，到时候需要中文翻译的法友，请点选下方的地球标示选取中文即可。谢谢。
Mr. Sito?
各位聽粵語翻譯嘅朋友、聽眾，請喺你哋 Zoom 嗰個版面嗰度咧，就點擊個地球嗰個嘅圖像，然後揀選廣東話。
Olivia?
Bienvenue à tous et merci de vous joindre à nous des quatre coins du monde. Veuillez noter que nous assurons sur Zoom l'interprétation simultanée dans un certain nombre de langues. Pour activer la traduction, cliquez sur l'icône représentant un globe terrestre intitulé Interprétation et sélectionnez la langue de votre choix.
Akiko?
皆さんようこそお越しくださいました。始める前に Zoom での同時通訳のご案内を差し上げます。Zoom 画面右下に間もなく通訳の丸いアイコンが出ますので、同時通訳をご希望の方はそれをクリックしてご希望の言語を選んでください。
Dani?
Bem-vindo a todos e obrigado por se juntarem a nós de todos os cantos do globo. Hoje, meu nome é Joy, em nome do 84.000, estamos traduzindo as palavras do Buda e a intenção do Siddhartha. Eu vou ser MC por hoje. Antes de começarmos, observe que estamos fornecendo a interpretação simultânea em vários idiomas aqui no Zoom. Para ativar a interpretação, clique no ícone do globo, interpretação de idioma e selecione o idioma de sua escolha.
Masha?
Дорогие друзья, приветствуем вас от лица проектов 84 тысячи и намерений Сиддхартхи. Сегодняшнее событие сопровождается синхронным переводом на русский. Чтобы попасть в переводческую комнату, пожалуйста, кликните по иконке с изображением земного шара и выберите русский язык.
Sarah?
Bienvenidos todos y gracias por estar con nosotros desde todos los rincones del mundo. Mi nombre es Joey y en nombre de 84.000, traduciendo las palabras de Buda y de Siddhartha's Intent, voy a ser vuestra maestra de ceremonias. Antes de empezar, por favor, tened en cuenta que estamos proporcionando interpretación simultánea en varios idiomas vía Zoom. Para activar las interpretaciones, pulsa en el icono del globo terráqueo llamado Interpretación de idiomas y selecciona el idioma que quieras.
Sonam?
정말 대시들은 주인 드네드링 Khyentse Rinpoche Sungshen Nangboda Dani Sungshedi Beke Toliang Sungjur Du Dine Soso Tanda Di Beke Tola Nyendewe Bimbina Ani Shamgi Tanda Siddhartha Intent Daja Tolo Tron Dine Beke Di Tamroje Lan Shuein.
We will be opening the interpretation rooms now. Please give us a second. 我们现在正在开放翻译室，请稍等。The interpretation channels are now available. Please click on the globe icon to select the language of your choice. I'd like to take this opportunity to inform everyone also that there will be a Q&A session in the second half of this event, but you may submit your questions at any time during the event. If you are on Zoom, please submit questions to the Q&A box only. If you're on YouTube, please click on the chat box and use the chat box. For participants on Zoom, if you're experiencing technical issues on Zoom, please send a direct message to our tech team. Look for the username tech support and they'll attend to you shortly. Okay, today we are celebrating Losar with a new publication from 84,000 Translating the Words of the Buddha. This new translation of the Sūtra, the Good Eon, is now available in 84,000's online reading room and on the 84,000 mobile app. At over 600 pages, this is a very long text, and we are very fortunate to have 84,000's founding chair, Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche, introducing us to this auspicious sutra. Before we invite Rinpoche to speak, We're also very pleased to have a pre-recorded message from 84,000 Editorial Co-Director, Dr. Andreas Doctor, who oversaw the research and translation of the Sutra, and who kindly agreed to offer us some insights into what it took to complete such a large translation project. Here he is.
Hello everyone, and a very happy Tibetan New Year to all of you. Today is a very special day as we are gathered to celebrate the publication of the Sūtra of the Good Eon, and also to hear Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche's teaching on this profound sutra. I have been asked to say a few words today about the way that this translation was produced. And in general, all the translations at 84,000, they come about through an extensive collaboration of translators, editors, and technical specialists. From our kind benefactors to the skilled translators and editors and technical staff, and finally our sharp and perceptive readers, everyone plays an important part in the way that our translations enter the world. But in the case of the Good Eon, it is perhaps even more obvious how teamwork must always be central to translating the words of the Buddha. To produce this translation, we had a team of dedicated translators who worked for many months in collaboration with learned and accomplished scholar monks. And at 84,000, we believe that it's crucial for translators and editors to take guidance from the Tibetan and Himalayan monastic scholars who uphold the ancient traditions of practice and scholarship so eminently. It is only through the support and blessings of the monastic traditions that it becomes possible for 84,000 to carry out the work of translating the Kangyur and the Tengyur. Also, in translating the Good Eon, we also benefited from not only the insights of Buddhist scholar practitioners, but also from a wealth of published research on this subject, as well as an earlier complete translation of the Good Eon, which was published more than 30 years ago, actually. As with all translations at 84,000, when the translations have been produced, then our editorial team begins the important task of carefully comparing the translations against the Tibetan source text. And in the case of the Good Eon, this was a particularly challenging task because the text contains more than 8,000 personal names. So to ensure that there was no name that was accidentally left out or misplaced, then our research editors and copy editors and technical staff, they had to work tirelessly for months, checking all the many details of this translation to the best of their ability. This text carries extraordinary blessings because it contains the sacred names of the 1,000 Buddhas of our current eon. So, with that in mind, all the translators and members of the entire team, they have taken great care to produce a translation that is as accurate and true to the source as possible. So this translation is really a collaborative effort that has benefited from everyone working together in harmony. The publication that we're celebrating today is really a gift to everyone from the entire 84,000 family. And we dedicate this offering with a sincere wish that the glory of the 1,000 Buddhas of this age may ensure that peace prevails in the world, and that all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas may continue to shine their unlimited loving wisdom on us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that wonderful message, Andreas, as well as for everything that you and your team at 84,000 are doing to make these source texts available to the world. If you would like to stay abreast of new Sutra translations from 84,000, please do subscribe to the 84,000 newsletter at 84,000.co/subscribe. Now, without further ado, let us welcome Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche to the virtual stage. Thank you so much for being here with us, Rinpoche. The stage is all yours.
So, I'd like to express my gratitude for 84,000 granting me this opportunity to, I don't know, introduce is even the proper word, but anyway, speak about Dode Karzang, the Fortunate Eon Sutra. In the sutras, Buddhas and bodhisattvas have said many, many times that even talking about these sutras, even having the sutra somewhere near you has so much merit and so much blessing. And here, our translators and scholars and editors, they put so much effort. For this, I rejoice and I offer my gratitude. I also offer my gratitude to all the sponsors and tireless administrators for making this happen. Now, Sutra. To teach Sutra, one need to be a sublime being. A sublime being who has reached at the least first bhumi. So it's therefore there are shastras. What I'm trying to say is I don't want to claim that I'm teaching this sutra. That is for my own safety. I cannot claim this. Well, I'm sure all of you know I'm a Buddhist. Trying to be, anyway. I try to practice Dharma. I guess what I'm trying to say is I will be speaking about this sutra as a follower of the Buddha Dharma, as someone who has most probably blind devotion. Like a lot of emotions, a lot of blind devotions, lots of, cultural baggage everywhere. So whatever I'm saying tonight is not going to benefit those who are here for scholastic reason, academic reason. I'm also not a translator. I think this is one job. I don't think I can do it in this life. Maybe in my next life, I can have aspiration to become one. So I don't know how much what I'm going to say tonight will benefit the translators. But nevertheless, as a follower of the Buddha and someone who is trying to practice the Dharma, and to celebrate with all our fellow Dharma friends, brothers, sisters, I'm really happy to celebrate last of the many, many new years, the Tibetan Losar, with this discussion on Fortunate Eon Sutra, Dode Karzang. As Andreas rightly said, this is a very, very big sutra, big in the sense of actually physically. It's actually visibly big, a lot of pages. I'm quite, I should not say familiar, but I may have read the sutra maybe 10, 20 times, maybe more. This is just because, you know, I was raised in a very sort of traditional setting. So when I was raised, my teachers, they raised me with a hope that I will become some sort of a stakeholder, a Rinpoche, a lineage holder. And that involves giving what we call reading transmission. And from a probably the first ever training that we received, very young, we are talking like 5 years old. The first thing they teach you is fast reading. You know, that's the first training we got. It's a really, really hard one. And Dode Kalpa, this sutra was used, especially with me. My teachers, they used this sutra to teach me, you know, like the fast reading skill. So because of that, I have read this sutra for many, many times. And I have to say, even though at that time, not all the meanings, you know, of course, most of the meaning, I wasn't even thinking about the meaning. But because the contents of the sutra is so beautiful and very touching, lots of sort of short events and segments of stories of the bodhisattvas. So I do remember having a lot of sort of sentimental feeling. I don't remember which Buddha and which bodhisattva, okay? I remember quite clearly this bodhisattva, this person who want to take the bodhisattva vow. And as an auspicious gesture, usually the one who wish to take the bodhisattva vow need to offer something, whatever, to the master who gives the precept. And there's one segment where this person who was a very poor, but yet really wishing to offer something. And this master that he was about to take the bodhisattva vow was a potter. So what he did was he kneaded mud and he offered the mud. And with that, he took the bodhisattva vow. And this, you know, as a child growing up, this is a very strong image which never really left from me. Okay, now, there are two things that I guess we need to pay attention with this sutra. The two terms, kalpa and bhadra, right? Now, the kalpa, let us, you know, just let us sort of talk about this a little bit. First of all, kalpa, which is a Sanskrit word, and I guess now it's becoming English term also. That's what I was told. Kalpa is a Sanskrit term, language, obviously coming from India. Now, what does that mean? Indian understanding of time. Now, there's even a joke. Indian time is elastic. You understand? And actually, I'm talking about that. Even probably I'm joking, but actually it's not also a joke. Indians have a very, very incredible way of understanding the time. This we need to keep in our head. I mean, I'm not even talking about Buddhism or Buddhist. Indians, they have this idea. So I think kalpa in Hinduism, these days, the Hindu scholars are saying it's a 4.32 billion years. You understand? I'm sure in the audience, there are people who read people like Stephen Hawking, cosmology, evolution theory, etc., etc. And those who are used to that, in their head, this may not work. But this is actually kind of strange. I sometimes think it's really strange why it doesn't fit with a modern mind. Because in the modern world, Einstein is considered very respected, right? I'm talking to the modern people. Einstein is considered very respected. And Einstein himself supposedly have said, time is relative. Relative means what? Relative means not absolute. But the problem is the modern people and the scientists, when they talk about time, they talk and think and have the emotional response to the time as it is absolute. So you see, the Indians are not wrong there. Indian elastic time actually has a kind of a, what do you call it? It has a base. But of course, if you need to catch a flight, if you need to, schedule your, dinner or whatever, of course, it's annoying, right, to say the least. But you know what I mean? The Indian idea of kalpa is something very beyond, conventional thinking, I should say. But as I've said just now, if Einstein said time is relative truth, then we should really follow that, especially if you are a serious scientist. And if you are a serious scientist or whatever, a believer of Einstein, then you should accept that time is not absolute, isn't it? So I just want to tell you this. Okay. Now, let me give you definition of kalpa. Again, this exists in, I think, many of the Hindu scripture and also with Buddhism. And I will extract it from a Buddhist Shastra, but I will sort of modify it so that it is understandable by the modern people. So if you ask a Buddhist, how long is kalpa, right? Their answer will be something like this. Pigeon brings a scarf and flies to Kathmandu. pigeon from probably, I don't know, Goa, let's say, all the way to Kathmandu and touches the tip of the Mount Everest once 100 years, let's say. And this is done every 100 years once. And every time the scalp touches the tip of the Mount Everest, there's a friction. So this then causes the, the flattening of Mount Everest. This is kalpa, but at the same time, it is also a moment. See, this is how the Indians think. And this is a very specific from the Buddhists. So I think this kind of understanding, because we are talking about a kalpa, this is a eon. We are talking about, because fortunate eon, good eon. So we are talking about eon at the moment. But relatively, generally, there are many different kinds of explanation. Generally, kalpa is a period of time or a period of eon, which is sort of between the creation and the recreation. That is called a kalpa. Okay, so, and this has happened so many times, according to Buddhist cosmology. And long time ago, again, when I say long time ago, you need to keep in mind the pigeon story. You understand? So it's not like a long ago, like 2,500 years ago. It's not like that. And especially, I'm forgetting to tell this, especially this is a Mahāyāna Sutra. I will come to this later. So long time ago, a creation of the universe happened, the world, the universe, and then it dissolved, supposedly. And when it dissolved, it became lake or an ocean, infinite ocean. And from this ocean, the gods noticed 1,000 lotus bloomed together, 1,002 sometimes. And then gods were like cheering, saying that, oh, the next kalpa or the eon will be the fortunate eon. Predicting, it's a prophecy that there will be the 1,000 Buddha, the arrival of the 1,000 Buddha, and 1,002 Buddha also you could say. Now, as I was saying, this is a Mahāyāna Sutra, okay? On the top of everything what I just told you about how Indians think about time, literally, on top of that, this is a Mahāyāna. What makes Maha? This is very important to make note. Maha, I know, historians, they understand the Mahāyānas, everything that is sort of started, and prevailed in Nalanda, and then it went to Japan, and then went to Tibet and China. They're all Mahāyāna, like Korea, Mahāyāna. And then teachings that went to, like Burma, Sri Lanka, that are not Mahāyāna, those are Sarvakayana, and so on and so forth. But that's just normal human way of understanding the word Maha. But here, especially since we are talking about a kalpa, eon, and this is important that you know, the word Maha, to make it very, very practical, Maha is really, you need to think out of box. That is Maha. Mahāyāna people are people who think out of box. Out of box, right? Out of box. If you are thinking conventionally, you are not Mahāyāna. Conventional, norm, the usual stuff, and you are basically being comfortable with this zone. Not brave. So Maha in this sense is really to think out of the box, right? So stories like what I just told you, okay, one creation, and then it was dissolving, and then the 1,000 lotus arose, and the God said, wow, there will be 1,000 Buddhas. All of this, for a lot of us who are rational oriented, for us, it may be like a fairy tales. But for Mahāyāna, thinking out of the box people, they will think, it's not necessarily something unbelievable. Between unbelievable and the believable, very, very thin line here. And also it's like, yeah, so this is quite important. Maha, attitude of Maha, the way you think, the attitude, the intention, outlook, the way you look at the world, where you look at to yourself. You see, these Mahāyāna people, they look at themselves as the Buddha in making, or the raw material of the Buddha. They don't look at themselves as this pathetic, kind of totally doomed, like hopeless person. They think themselves as raw material, ready to be assembled anytime. So, like that, the way they think is different. So, because of that, everything is Maha. Maha view, Maha meditation, Maha action. So, I'm just simplifying all of this. Words like prajna, paramita, transcendence, gone, 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 beyond gone. like, why we repeat 4 times? Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate. Why do we have to repeat? These guys, they really want to gate from the box 4 times. Not just 1 time. Really get out of the box. This is something that you need to hear. You need to have this attitude. If you want to learn Mahāyāna, if you want to read Mahāyāna, if you want to be inspired by Mahāyāna, if you want to really get excited by Mahāyāna, this you need. If you still are bound by manufacturing date, expiring date, time as absolute, this Fortunate Eon Sutra is just a fairy tales. So, and by the way, I need to point this out. Everything what I say does not mean that does not mean that to be a follower of a Mahāyāna, that you need to be blind, devoted. No, not at all. Actually, the Mahāyāna people think if you are following some sort of a box, you are then really blindly devoted. You are actually really limited. This is what they think. Okay, so this is just a brief interpretation of the, this is, Bhadra, Kalpa, Sūtra, but okay, so the Kalpa, Eon. So just a little bit of a, what do you call it? Introduction of what do we mean by the Eon, okay? Now, what do we mean by fortunate, good? What made this Eon good? Some of you, I'm sure you must say, how can it be good? There's a, like war that's happening right now. We just had a pandemic. We did, like human beings are just terrible, so on and so forth, isn't it? So how can this be fortunate? This is what some of you may be thinking. But see, that kind of measuring is thinking inside the box. When the God saw the 1,000 lotus, he said, wow, the next one is going to be fortunate. Next Eon will be the fortunate Eon. The reason why they say this is because the next Eon, which by the way is now, is going to be blessed by 1,000 people who tells you the truth. That is what makes this Eon good. Nothing to do with the economic good, like, okay, everybody, the United Nations has become more powerful, everybody's shaking hand, everybody's hugging each other. There's a nice, like coffee shop somewhere. Nothing like that. There is going to be 1,002 people who will tell the truth. And actually, if I have friends, really devout practitioners, I have heard from them saying that no matter what, where I in my next life, may I never be reborn at a time that is not fortunate Eon, because you have no access to the truth. And by the way, just to give you a context, it is quite interesting in the Buddhist cosmology. This fortunate Eon, when the Buddhas come, it is actually not the greatest, most beautiful, most exciting time in the world. It's not. Because according to Buddhism, they say when everything is working perfectly, people don't have quest for the truth. People actually will feel longing for the truth when they're a little bit shaky situation. When things are perfect. So anyway, just very simply, maybe we will come to this later, just briefly. What makes something Bhadra? I guess in Sanskrit it means good or fortunate or excellent, is access, availability, teacher, teaching, sangha of something to do with the truth. And we are talking about no no mythical, mystical, magical truth. We are talking about raw, mundane, simple, uncontrived truth, such as anicca, dukkha, anatta, shunyata, tathagata garbha, so on and so forth. Okay, so this is sort of a very brief sort of connotation of the Bhadra and Kalpa. In the Sutra, that's usually in Buddhism, Sutra is referred to the words of the Buddha. Shastra is referred to the words of Buddha's disciple. Okay, now to roughly, and as I said, this is a really big sutra. So first of all, I'm ill-equipped. I'm not a as I said earlier, one need to be at least in the first bhumi to really talk about these sutras. I'm not claiming that I am teaching this, but I will just briefly summarize the sutra. So, like many sutras, this stemmed out of discussion. This sort of came about, like, Hat Sutra, for instance. It was because Shariputra curiously asked a question, and then Avalokiteshvara gave the answer. It's a little bit more than that, this one. Because in the Hat Sutra's case, Buddha wasn't speaking in the beginning. Only much later he said, yes, good. That's it. So confirmation only. Here, actually, Buddha talked right from the beginning. Anyway, Shakyamuni Buddha, he taught, or he initiated this sutra at Vaishali towards the end of one summer retreat. And there was lots and lots of monks. And again, if you read the actual sutra, it has numbers like there's 100,000 monks. There's something like 80 million bodhisattvas, or much more. Again, here, India, number. You understand? But if you can sort of stay out of the box, you will appreciate this. If you are someone who think in terms of cubic meter and all of that, then today you go to Vaishali, you say, oh, where will the, 80 million bodhisattva, how could, where would they sit, so on and so forth. Anyway, among them, a great bodhisattva. Now, this bodhisattva does not come often. It's very rare. But anyway, usually the sutras always gets initiated by people like Manjushri, Subhuti, Ananda, Avalokiteshvara. But here there's a bodhisattva, Supreme Joy, I think his name. Very loosely translated. He was meditating during that time, So he paused, or he sort of rose from the meditation, and together with lots of monks. Oh, I almost forgot. This is something I really want to emphasize. For those who wish to study Buddhism, many times, especially in the Mahāyāna sutras, audience, it's so important to go through the list of the audience. I know it's very boring. I myself have skipped a lot. For instance, like Avatamsaka Sutra, first several, almost 100 pages is a list of names of who was there. And when I was reading Avatamsaka Sutra before, many times names, like just names. But now I regret. Now, just recently I was reading, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And the same thing here. When Bodhisattva Supreme Joy rose from his meditation, together with the monks and other disciples, which includes devas, nagas, rakshasas, and yakshas, ghosts, demons. Now, this is so important. Even a very, very, ordinary being like me, I'm talking to about 8 people here in front of me, and I don't know how many people there. I'm talking to 8 people here. There's Korean, there's Russian, there's Indian, there's Bhutanese. Their upbringing, their culture, and not just that, how many masalas they just ate just before they came to this teaching. Or some of them may have drunk alcohol or chew betel nuts. I don't know. Or what kind of family background, what kind of psyche, what kind of mental state they have. This will make a big difference how they conceive even what I say. So imagine when the Buddha taught this, there was ghosts, yakshasas, nagas. They have a totally different understanding. I mean, just imagine if we could just go inside one of the nagas or the yakshasas or rahulas, their mind, and try to understand how they understood. This is actually something that we keep on missing, but actually really important, I would say. Anyway, the Bodhisattva Supreme Joy, he went to Buddha and asked questions. And he asked 17 questions. Yeah. And I'm not going to go through the 17 questions, all the way, because first of all, they're 17 questions are out of the box questions, you see. And me, I am very deeply inside the box, so I cannot really understand this so much. So yeah, there's 17 questions, and this whole sutra is basically answer to this 17 question. So the Bodhisattva asked Buddha 17 questions. And very difficult to, I told you, I'm not a translator. And the translators have done a great job. Please refer to the sutra itself. But just very briefly for tonight, for the auspicious sake. First question. and I'm translating, I'm really making this very, very, I'm interpreting this in a very, I'm interpreting it very badly. So you'll have to excuse me. And please, I know I'm already misleading a lot of people here, but as I said, I'm not a translator, so I'm really not doing a good job. I will just express what I understood. And not just, I'm not talking about the inability of translating the word, but just inability to understand the actual also. But what I understand, I will try to share. So anyway, the Bodhisattva supreme joy to go to the Buddha and ask, a Bodhisattva, when a Bodhisattva, what does a Bodhisattva have to do, making it very, very crude translation, what should a Bodhisattva do to understand the other sentient beings' mind and action? Actually, it's a very important question. You know, remember leadership training, management training? How should the boss or the manager understand the workers, co-workers, or whatever, you know, the company people, their mind and their attitude? And this, just giving you an example, this is like 10,000 times more. How should a Bodhisattva, what should a Bodhisattva do to understand the mind of the sentient being and their action? That's question number one. And what should, number two, what should a Bodhisattva do to really enter the teaching of the Buddha, meaning understand the teaching of the Buddha? How can what should a Bodhisattva do so that this Bodhisattva can actually enter their mind wholeheartedly, completely, and see whole picture of the Buddha's teaching? And it's so important, absolutely important this is, because there's a story like, there's even a story about the Buddha coughed, and doctor hear this, and said, oh, Buddha has a coughing, so he's trying to prepare a medicine. And there's another person who hears this, says, oh, Buddha is giving me the teaching on cause and condition, that when there's a cause and condition, there's a sickness. So it like 4 or 5 different people hear it, and a lot of people got a lot of benefit from just coughing. See, so that kind of, you know, so how should a Bodhisattva, what should Bodhisattva have to understand that, enter the Buddha's word? What should the Bodhisattva do so that a Bodhisattva will refrain from misleading others? This is also big.
Should a Bodhisattva do to refrain from misleading others? Good questions.
For instance, okay, just to give you an example, when somebody like me See, I'm not a Buddha. So when I say to some large audience, you know, everything is impermanent, there's a danger of me misleading people. How? Because I am asserting that there is something that becomes impermanent. That's dangerous. You see, the Tathagatas, the enlightened beings, they don't do this. So how should the bodhisattva learn to not mislead when they teach? You know, because beings like us, they being ill-equipped beings like us, even if we teach something at glance correct, logical, makes sense, could be very misleading. So how should the bodhisattva learn this skill of not refraining from misleading people? Okay, this is very, very badly translated. This is a summary. And most of this is also my own interpretation, my own assumption. So I really request everyone here not to trust everything what I say. Just take this as a celebration. At least you are trying, I'm trying. The fourth question. How should bodhisattva learn to take a teaching literally? So important. Absolutely important. Because as a, you know, if you are not good at that, people will say, oh, but he didn't mean that, you know. How should bodhisattva learn to take things literally? The fifth question. Some of these are a little difficult to understand, but as I said, this is my summary. How should one not have a veil to the present Buddhas? I don't know what that means. It could mean a lot of things. It could mean, you know, like there's so many Buddhas, there's Buddhas everywhere, but there's a veil. How should the bodhisattva unveil this, right? How should bodhisattva get the opportunity to accompany a Buddha, and not only just accompany, but have the confidence to the Dharma that they taught? This is the sixth one. Seventh one. This is a Mahāyāna, the Mahāyāna flavor. This is, and especially the seventh one, I would say, is such a strong Mahāyāna flavor. How should bodhisattva dwell in the worldly life? Really, not just dwell, you know, actually engage in the worldly life. You know, really, job, family, I don't know, like plotting, scheming, you know, scheduling. How should one really do that? Yet we live totally stainless from all that. How should a bodhisattva do that? Eight, so important, especially for those who are meditating, especially these days, who seem to kind of have come to a taste of meditation, right? Like mindfulness stuff. How should and I want to really translate this properly. How should bodhisattva enter into this absorption? Not absorption. This absorption. How I think absorption is good. How should a bodhisattva go into this absorption, yet not reborn or not be born or not basically not but this word je, which is birth, arise, exist. That's important. So how should a bodhisattva enter into this absorption, yet not be born in the parameter of absorption? Born, exist, love, cozy, not wanting to let go, like protect, hold on to the mindfulness, hold on. Because when you go to the absorption, and then when you dwell in it and when you're born it, then you get to constipation. This is what I don't want. Now getting more and more interesting and more Mahāyāna flavor now. How should a bodhisattva enjoy and really utilize the nirvana, utilize the nirvana or the phenomena of the nirvana, yet never go to nirvana? Really, bodhisattva out of compassion, they don't want nirvana. They are bodhisattvas like a Kishti Garbha who pray wholeheartedly, please, I don't want to be enlightened until all sentient beings are enlightened, so on and so forth. So how should a bodhisattva learn to dwell in the world of nirvana, yet not get, let me put it this way. How should a bodhisattva learn to dwell, learn to enjoy and utilize the wealth of the nirvana, yet not get stoned by nirvana? I think this is better. Stoned and hooked and tipped, right? Tipsy. How should one do that? The next one is a little bit of a very Mahāyāna now. How should a bodhisattva become arhat or learn the skill and enjoy and utilize the state and the power and the quality of the arhat and the pratyekayana Buddha? How should a bodhisattva do that, but never wish to be arhat and the pratyekayana Buddha? Just don't forget, I said right in the beginning, this is a Mahāyāna, And then the 11th, how should a bodhisattva have no dullness or distractions, or no dullness or numbness, and numbness and sort of unclarity when it comes to remembering the Buddha. Oh, this is a very big one. This is a really, really big one. We are not only talking about the remembering as in remembering a figure Buddha. We are talking about the Buddha within, etc. Next one, 12, little complicated. Talking about dhatus, elements. How should a bodhisattva learn and enter into all the dhatus? This is a dhatu is Sanskrit word. Dhatu is so rich and so important. Elements, spheres. And there's a very big study in the Abhidharma. But since I'm understanding that there's a lot of new people here, just to give you a picture. See, let's say I'm talking here right now, and I'm talking to a bunch of people here. Remember earlier I was saying, each person, even as I say 2 words, there is a change of dhatu. So usually when we talk, we just sort of have a make-believe, yes, we communicated. But usually it's all like this. You understand this? I used to say, like, we only have to hope there's a we only have to hope for a unsuccessful miscommunication. Then you are lucky if you have an unsuccessful miscommunication. Then you should consider you are lucky, have merit. But the bodhisattva knows this dhatu, the sphere, what dimension that's happening right this very moment with 100,000 people, with 1 person, what element? What's the other word? Constituents? Constitution, yeah. That's a good word, right? Constitution. You know, people, Indians, they walk in the morning for constitution, right? Mood. Wow. To really click that, the mood of the listener, not just teaching, I'm not talking about, just doesn't matter. Even me waving my, mask here. If I'm a bodhisattva who is skilled in this, who knows when, what, how long, all of that, it will do something. And if you deeply look into your life, this may have happened to you many times. Sometimes out of nowhere, for some strange reason, some people inspire you, or some people really disgust you. Basically, the elements and all that. So basically, yeah, that's what the question is about. How should a bodhisattva really learn to really get that education on element? These are an important education, actually. The world, the Harvard needs to learn this. Stanford needs to learn this. Then there will be less war. Otherwise, there's just no hitting. So usually what happens is I say something and you listen, you hear something and you believe that this is what I said. So you hear something that you think I have said, and that's about it. If you think deeply on this, it's like really depressing to think about the effort that we put in so-called communication. Anyway, also, this one I'm not so clear, so I can't really bluff here. The number 13, something to do with requesting and what do you call it? Confidence. How to pursue, ask, and how to not let others outshine your confidence, your authenticity, your authentic presence. How to not lose that, how to not let other conditions outshine this, rattle this, shake this. I think the bodhisattvas need this. 14, I will quickly go through. I'm sorry, I'm taking a bit of a time here. And I haven't even reached to the answer yet. This is just a question. How can a bodhisattva learn every single minute details of the Buddha field of all the Buddhas? And not only understand, understand each and every details of the Buddha field. This one, so important, especially those who always talk about compassion. You should really pay attention to the next one. You know, we always talk about Buddhism, compassion, non-violence, love. Hear this Mahāyāna comment. How should a bodhisattva ripe, benefit, help sentient beings? Yet, bodhisattva never look at them as a sentient being. It's just so important. Because many times when we are talking about compassion, we are talking about a hierarchy. The elite, bourgeois, the compassionates, and the object of compassion, what is it? Proletariat. Yeah, proletariat, object of compassion. This is how we think. Yeah. And then 16 was, how should a bodhisattva teach? How should bodhisattva not dwell on any kind of a view? How should a bodhisattva teach about, how should a bodhisattva talk about the nirvana, yet bodhisattva not dwell in this concept of nirvana? Yeah. How should a bodhisattva act as a bodhisattva and enter into the bodhisattva path? yet how to detach oneself from the bodhisattva act, bodhisattva aim. 17 questions were asked by the great supreme joy bodhisattva. Okay. Then Buddha gave the answer. First, long praise to the bodhisattva. Good. Actually, the questions already are answered, right? Question is already poking. Questions have already poked the hole. It has already done its job. Anyway, the bodhisattva Buddha's answer. He talked about this special samadhi. Samadhi that really sort of accentuates the truth of all the phenomena. And Buddha talked long time, a big part of the sutra is about how with this samadhi, if the bodhisattvas have this samadhi, then bodhisattva will have no problem with all the troubleshooting 17 problems that the bodhisattva raised. Not only that, if the bodhisattva has this samadhi, bodhisattva will excel. Now, this is an interesting one. We usually talk about 6 paramita. Here in the Good Eon Sutra, Buddha talked about 121 paramitas. Buddha said, bodhisattva will excel if the bodhisattva has this samadhi. And bodhisattva will also attain something like 84,000 different samadhis, 84 different dharanis. Bodhisattva will learn to benefit sentient beings, savvy in benefiting others, yet not get caught by the act of benefiting others. So first, and then also, oh yeah. So, basically the answer comes in 7 segments, and it's the last answer that got enlarged, and that's this sutra. And this last answer is, and thus the bodhisattva will quickly attain parinirvana or enlightenment. And then more question is raised. And then Buddha talked about how there was this king, Chakravartin, who had 1,000 children, who all become Buddha later. These 1,000 children, they become 1,002. And the list of the names, all the list is in this sutra. And not only the list of the Buddha, each, all 1,000 Buddhas, but where they come from, their sort of country, their race, their light, their father, their mother, their son, their attendant, and their disciples, and the amount of follower, and their lifespan, and how long their dharma also will remain, and how after they go into parinirvana, what kind of relics, how many amounts of relics. Some have only one size and everything. Long, this is what makes a big chunk of this sutra. So please read the sutra. They are so beautiful. I don't know, somehow I guess I should say I'm very fortunate to have this element, this dhatu. So when I read names of, some of the Buddha, so and so Buddha, he was born in a city called Bhadra. He has something like maybe a 1 mile of light. He has an attendant. His name is a learned one. He will have 40,000 monks. Or after a while, he will have 70,000 monks, so on and so forth. And I don't know, when you read this list, it's just so touching, because now, again, you need to read with the context that I've been telling you, because it's just a display. It's a play, isn't it? It's such a manifestation. And remember the duration of kalpa, the Mount Everest, the whole that time and the moment. So if you can think in this sense, it's very enjoyable. So please, I request you to read. Anyway, towards the end, the bodhisattva again asks question. How did each of these Buddha, how did they first even thought of becoming a Buddha for the benefit of sentient beings? Now, this is the important one. And actually, this is a very important subject. And I think it's very relevant for us. For us, sometimes, okay, of course, you love your brother, your sister, probably father, mother, your fellow country, or whatever, or a small child crying in the street whose maybe doll just got broken. You have empathy. You feel empathy. You understand his or her or the situation. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sometimes, it's just out of no reason you feel so kind, and you just feel, and you have no price tag at all. Usually there's always a vested interest, there's always a price tag. Sometimes you have this. And this is the seed. And then this comes in many, many different forms. Like the Shakyamuni Buddha, for instance, our Shakyamuni Buddha, when he was roaming around in Kathmandu, actually, he just saw Dipankara. He just bumped into Dipankara in the street. And the Shakyamuni Buddha, he was of course not called Shakyamuni Buddha at that time, Subhadra. He had a long hair. And he just bumped into, Dipankara walking. And I don't think he even knows this is the Buddha Dipankara. He just looks so magnificent, so beautiful, just unbearably beautiful and so amazing. And then suddenly he saw a puddle on the road. And then his mind, wow, his feet will be soiled by this, mud, this water. So he immediately took out his hair and put on the bottle and let the Dipamkara walk. And then Dipamkara prophesies, saying, you will become Shakyamuni Buddha. This is what happened. So this is why we roam around in Kathmandu sometimes, trying to see where could that puddle be, It may be somewhere in those never finishing fixing Kathmandu road. There's too many puddles, isn't it? Too many ones. Anyway. So Supreme Joy, the Bodhisattva Chodu Kabir, he then asked the question, how did each of these Buddhas, how did they even have the idea of taking the Bodhisattva vow? So big last chunk of this sutra talks about how each one of them. And so beautiful. If you just look at the list of what they offered, the whole throne, nation, whole country they offered. Others, a leaf, a mud, or I think a massage also. It can be something so beautiful, something so simple. That's how they took the Bodhisattva vow. The vow to not build hospitals, by the way. Vow to not build hospitals, not to sort of propagate whatever your view, whatever. Vow to make people understand the truth. So this is my very, very bad summary of this amazing sutra. I request you to please, I don't believe that most of you have time to read all. Just flip through. And hopefully, we could actually I'm sitting because it just come in my mind, so I have to speak. I'm sitting here in front of somebody who's involved with the drama, right? Hopefully, we could actually create some of these segments. It's a beautiful, sort of segments about somebody taking a bodhisattva vow, offering a massage. What do you think? It's like, so hopefully this is something that we could do. Enact, kalpa Bhadra Sutra. I'm sorry, I've taken most of the time, I think. Is there a question?
No.
Yeah?
Yes, thank you so much, Rinpoche. Shall we move on to questions?
Okay.
Okay, participants, if you haven't already done so, please submit your questions to the Q&A box on Zoom or the chat box on YouTube. So first question from Jack Ho. He asks, Rinpoche.
Okay.
Jack Ho asks, Rinpoche, when we read the names of various Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the sutra, what should we bear in mind when we read out loud? For example, should we visualize that we're paying homage, or should we try to understand the meaning of their names?
Yes, that would be really good. But you don't even have to do that. Just read, that's good enough.
Okay.
Really?
Next question.
Read. You can even read it while you browse through Netflix. Watch your favorite episodes. Read. Better do it. better that than nothing. Chances of you sitting on some holy mountain in a cave and just think about the Buddha and read it and not think about others, for most of us, very slim. Okay.
Okay, next question from Ben. He asks, will thinking out of the box affect our judgment? Most of our judgment comes from experience, i.e. the so-called box.
Yes, exactly. So when the judgments are gone, all the values will be gone. When the values are gone, absolute freedom is these values. But by the way, we need it for now. Remember, Supreme Joy said, how to dwell in that, but yet not be affected. Yeah. Have all the value, but between you, for people like me, you and me, we should have a value, but always be suspicious of the value. I think something like that.
Okay. Next, we have two questions that are related to time and relativity. So I'll read them both. One is from Luigi Singh. He asks, Dear Rinpoche, keeping in mind that both time and space are relative and that there is no self tying this bundle of experiences together, would it be right to think that in a single moment, we go through innumerable eons of rebirths in infinite universes? Furthermore, as all things are always compounded and impermanent and therefore lacking any essence, would it be right to think that in each moment there are always innumerable Buddhas giving teachings on emptiness? And a question for Marcus that's related. He asks, by time is not absolute, what do you mean more specifically? Do you mean that our markers for time, for example, an hour, a year, etc., are arbitrary and we might mark time in other ways? Or do you mean how long we say things will take is based on our relative and subjective conceptions of time? Or are our conceptions of when we will have something happen relative? Or what do you mean?
Actually, most of your question seems to have all the answers there. You know, yes, actually, no, it's an illusion. It does not exist as an independent entity. That's why it's not an absolute. Long time, short time, forever, oh, momentary. Oh, this is delusion, habit, but very strong. Very, very strong. A night in a Delhi jail will take long time. A whole day in a Khan Market coffee shop might go like this. You understand? It's so, yeah. And the earlier question really resounds many of the Avatamsaka and also this sutra's point, you know, moment, you know, just everything. Basically, from the time Jesus came on this earth to the time that I'm drinking this, everything happened in one moment, but we can even do better. Not even a moment has gone. You know, we are talking about a Mahāyāna, you know, we need to think like that. It's really a big study of cosmology. I'm telling you, this Mahāyāna Sutras, it's very interesting, it's very poetic, and there's a lot of characters. And now that we are so deprived time has become absolute, even though we keep on saying is relative. And we have come up with such a poverty mentality written name like a Big Bang. What a beautiful name, such as Dipamkara. Much, much more beautiful. Okay.
Okay. Next, we have a question from Aster Ozel Chutzel. He asks, Dear Rinpoche, I have a question regarding practice. I heard you once briefly speaking about the importance of discipline on the path and how it might contradict our modern desire and belief in freedom. Can you please elaborate a bit deeper on this? Thank you.
Can you repeat that again?
Sure. This is a question about practice. I heard you once speaking about the importance of discipline on the path and how it might contradict our modern desire and belief in freedom. Can you please elaborate on this a bit more?
I don't think there's much thing to elaborate because it is something that definitely sounds like something that I say because it doesn't make sense to me too. I don't know what I meant actually. What did I mean by that? Yes, discipline is important. That's what, you know. Okay, just to give you the, because you have this question. If you ask me, what is the, let's say, because I'm sorry, you know, see, I'm a defiled being, not a bodhisattva like supreme joy. I'm sitting in front of many Indians. So my dhatu is at the moment influenced by the Indians. So if tomorrow these Indians appoint me as a minister of education, you understand? What I will do is I'll scrap all the Indian education system and I will install 3, what do you call it, training, which is Shila, discipline, and that I will give it as that I will, okay, so Shila, and then Samadhi, meditation, and then Prajna, wisdom. But then I will tell my principle, suppose these 3 are going for a drive, the wisdom should be the driver, and the Samadhi, meditation, should be maybe sit in front. I mean, yeah, somewhere in the, like next door. Discipline at times in the trunk. Wisdom precedes everything. So probably it sounds like when we are talking about the modern time, because I think modern time, what are we talking about? Modernity. I have a feeling that when we are talking about modernity, we are talking a lot about the westernization here these days. And in the westernization has a different kinds of morality, right? And many times the Western, in the ethic and morality, when in the West, when they talk about the modernity, modern West ethic, modern morality, I don't know whether they talk about the wisdom. But according to Shantadeva, according to everybody, the Mahāyāna people, no wisdom, discipline is a pain in the neck. And creator of the biggest creator of self-righteousness. Okay, next one. They're not, they're
next
not
we have
me.
Next, we have a question from Zheng Yongren. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact pronunciation of this Chinese name, but he or she asks, given that the sutra has 1002 Buddhas, does this mean that the whole Vajra Kalpa only has 1002 enlightened individuals?
If you are inside the box, yes. Outside the box, probably much more. But you know, you see, okay, I understand. There's many boxes. There's this box, we go out, there's another box, right? So Supreme Joy already asked how to go even from the path, remember? Anyway, I've actually forgot to tell you this. Out of these 1,000 Buddha, only 4 have gone. That's a good news. 996. And I guess, yeah, there's a 2, right? Bihar is going to be busy. They're all supposed to go there under that Bodhi tree. Nowhere else. Only there. Only there. There's actually a different story about that. This one I didn't actually see in the text. Someone told me this, a Lama. They're supposedly in there, in the body, somewhere near the Bodhi tree. 1,000 princes were beheaded by a very evil king. And then they said, okay, we are going to take revenge. And the way we take revenge is we will become the Buddha and you will become our disciple, you and all your, retinues. And at that time, the 1,000 princes, their retinues, they also took a vow. When you become the Buddha, I will be your attendant. I will be your disciples, and so on and so forth. This is why Bihar will become busy.
Okay, next we have a question from Kalyana, who asks, Rinpoche, can you please elaborate on the answer to question 13? How does a bodhisattva aspire and ask for how not to let others outshine one's own confidence of authentic presence?
Let me read this first properly. This one, I'm not so sure. I was trying to sort of go through this today, in the big sutra, and I just got so, I don't know, tired, lazy, and yeah, please, can Joy, can you write down that?
Sure.
I think it is
question 13, I believe.
Yeah, can you please write that down? And maybe
Sure.
the person's name and email or whatever, and then I will try to get back.
Okay, thank you, Rinpoche. Next, we have a question from Yin Fan Hua. They ask, how can bodhisattvas benefit all sentient beings? Can bodhisattvas bring compassion to the hearts of those who raise war?
Especially, more than anyone else, because they're driven by their own ignorance, desire, anger, That's it.
Next, let us take this question. There's a question from Jin, and it is, how can I trust that the translators conveyed the exact meaning of what the Buddha wants to say? if the translators are not yet enlightened beings?
Very difficult. Very difficult. That's difficult. Yeah. This is why not just the translator, the editor, people who are trying to make the translation happen, we can only do our best with a, most sincere, aspiration and motivation. Of course, we try to make, as many of you know, in the 84,000, our translation, we never considered this as a sort of the final draft. It's a work in progress. It's going to be, translation is the most difficult job. I'm sure you know, like the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam in English is like the biggest, big seller, right? The best seller. I was told that Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam is really, it's basically really, really badly translated. It's actually sort of almost like a rewrite, but that's how it is. This is why, I have been grumbling. I'm sure many of you know that, and not just the translation word. I mean, the word, for instance, like an English word, it has a whole history and the culture behind it, right? This is why if I'm Kim Jong-un of Buddhism, I would really ban words like compassion, English word, compassion, because I can just smell the colonial, Abrahamic, smell. But, what to do? We need to sort of work with this, and people should raise questions. People should really be analytical, be critical, and that's how we have to,
Okay, Rinpoche, maybe we'll take 2 more questions.
Okay.
The next one is from Tanya. They ask, I've read some of the Fortunate Eon or the Good Eon, and it's really unusual, all these lists and details of qualities, etc. When we become enlightened, will these details be in our mind, or was this the result of Siddhartha being born in Vedic times and it was just part of his DNA at the time?
According to Chandrakirti, let's forget Buddha. According to Chandrakirti, when you reach first Bhumi, you can talk to 100 Buddha in one moment, receive 100 different teachings in one moment. And there's many, many lists like that. Again, just to give you some, because this is an important question. And I'm borrowing this from the Buddhist study of what we call Brahmana, which is like Buddhist epistemology or the logic, let's say. When we interact with the object, world, whatever, outer object, inner object, whatever, We do usually, actually, we do two things, okay? One is a direct perception. So I'm looking at you, you are looking at me. This is a direct perception. One is inferential. I see your shoes outside, so you must be inside, like that. Sort of, out of these two, inferential is secondary. That could be really wrong because, it may be not even your shoes. Maybe it's just similar kind of shoes, so on and so forth. So we give precedence to the direct perception. Now, when we talk about a direct perception, there's also 4 different kinds of direct perception Buddhists talk about. I'm not going to go through all of this, but one is like a, sense and sense consciousness. I think that scientists and all of that, they can understand things like empiricism, empirical, understand, see, I can touch, sort of, Now, in Buddhism, these kind of direct perception by sense, that's low class direct perception. They talk about a yoga. The reason why it's a low class is so much filter. There's so much filter. Yeah, compared to that shoe analogy, you must be inside because your shoes is outside. It's better, but still a lot of filter. So the most direct perception to the object is a yogic, Nanjurungsum, we call it. It's a yogic seeing. When yogis see things, I don't think they really, it doesn't frighten them with 1,000 or 1. It really doesn't frighten them. It really, I think, like I can't put a truck inside my cup. It will frighten me. I cannot take it literally. About bodhisattva, can I have a cup of truck? Literally they say, oh yeah, why not? Are you sure? You don't want 2? Yeah, why not 3? No, they can do that. Okay.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Let's finish off with a practical question. So this one is from an anonymous participant. They ask, Rinpoche, I have the aspiration to read many great sutras, such as this one, but when I see the length of the sutra, I feel discouraged and I never start reading. What advice do you have for us to get started?
No need to finish. No need to finish. Why should we finish? This needing to finish, you must have learned from Harrow or Eaton or something, isn't it? Okay.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you for giving us this precious teaching, and thank you all for being such a wonderful audience. Take care and stay safe. Until next time.